After playing Nevernes To Everness for a few days, the next big question comes to mind. How the heck are you supposed to build teams in this game? Because as much as I like Daffodill's main asset she brings to the fight, surely there's an optimal way to destroy enemies faster. Well, that's why you're watching this video. I will explain to you the best team building strategies, and I will also showcase how you can build a team with every beginner banner S-class character. Okay, so there's two things I want to quickly go over before we dive into team comps, and they are really important. Which characters are considered essential for building your teams, and why you need to care about Esper Cycles. Oh, and yeah, this video is sponsored by NTE, so big love from Mint again. But anyway, let's start with the latter. So Esper Cycle is basically an elemental reaction, but it only gets triggered when two character attributes are adjacent on this wheel. Every character has their cycle gauge, which is this little icon, and it primarily gets built by doing attacks with them and using the skill button. You can actually inspect the stats section of the basic attack and skill by looking at this cycle rate stat line, which means when you fully do the basic attack combo, you gain this much cycle rate, and when you tap the skill, well, that's how much cycle rate the character gains as well. In order to fill the cycle gauge, the character needs 100 points. So for example, one of the best units who can instantly fill their cycle gauge is Zero, the main character. The skill literally gives 100 cycle rate points, so instant fulfillment for cycle gauge. Now remember, the Esper cycle that gets triggered will be a combination of two attributes of the characters when you swap. So for example, when I swap from Zero, who has Cosmos attribute, and then let's say Hathor is the unit we swap to, she triggers Remora reaction from the Esper cycle, because it's made up of Cosmos and Lakshana attributes. The same would happen again if I would swap from Hathor, who has full cycle gauge, to Zero. Yet again, Remora reaction from Esper cycle happens. I'm gonna be honest, these reactions are extremely important because they offer significant buffs or debuffs, so every single team I will cover in this video will be able to trigger Esper Cycles when their gauges are full. I do not recommend at the current moment to build teams where a unit cannot trigger an Esper Cycle, because you will be missing out on too much value, and you will notice on this wheel if their attribute is not adjacent to any other attribute. Also, I will not go through every single Esper Cycle right now, and I will just mention their benefits when I cover the teams in a moment. Alright, with the Esper Cycle shenanigans out of the way, let's talk about the core units you will probably want to invest your resources into. First would be Nanally. She's given away for free as a pre-registration bonus, but she's also an A-class rarity unit, so you will eventually be able to max out her awakening. She is also one of the two dedicated damage boosters. Her skill summons this cute companion Hootie, who will boost attack for the team, but if that's not enough, her ultimate provides an additional attack boost for everyone yet again. And on top of that, her best arc, Blow Up the Crowd, which can be obtained for free, yet again provides one more attack boost for the active unit. Do you see where I'm getting at? She's an insane attack buffer. In fact, you can even slap on her the Speedy Hedgehog set, which provides yet another additional 15% attack boost after using her ultimate. So a lot of attack boosting, plus her Psyche attribute is quite flexible because she can help trigger Nova, Stain, and Discord Esper Cycles. By the way, you can always click on this not so obvious button here to get an overview of the character, see what Esper Cycles they can achieve, and learn more about their role. Alright, next one would be Sakuri. Just like Nanally, Sakuri specializes in supporting the team. Her skill can gather up the enemies in one place, so super useful at times, and then her ultimate can boost attack and reduce enemies' defense thanks to her passive. Plus, you can obtain her best in slot arc for free, Good Boy's Grand Adventure, which can boost team's attack stat. And don't forget, she can also be equipped with the Speedy Hedgehog set for more attack boosting. So yeah, if you're unsure whom to get from the S-class selector, Sakuri is a really good choice because she will be utilized in many teams. Then we have Juyuan. She's a popular pick in two of the strongest teams because she can also group enemies with her skill, and she also significantly improves the Blossom Esper Cycle, which is one of the most common reactions in best teams. Oh, and her playstyle is literally just press skill and ultimate and maybe shoot some bullets by holding down attack button. Next, as I mentioned, there's Zero, the MC. He or she is there to help enable quick swapping in teams thanks to the skill which instantly fills Zero's cycle gauge. And you will notice how often the teams get to swap and trigger their Esper Cycles thanks to Zero's skill. Also, eventually you can unlock all awakenings from the story. And the last one enables the Resonance effect, which boosts team's attack after Zero is part of the Esper Cycle. Lastly, we have Daffodill. Besides having really tight genes, Daffodill is also one of the most unique units in the game because she's currently the only one who belongs to Chaos attribute, which can help trigger powerful Esper Cycles such as Nova or Discord. But she's also one of the best units at breaking the enemy. I'm sure you noticed the white bar below the enemy's HP. This is the typical stagger bar we've seen in other gacha games, and Daffodill can help reduce it quite fast thanks to her kit. So yeah, these 5 units will be the most common building blocks for any good team, and with the newfound knowledge you have gained, let's talk about the best teams next. So, if you're like me and you like pretty lover boys like Baicang, I've got good news. You can build quite the broken team with him. Now, the recommended composition would be with Sakiri, Juyuan, and Daffodill. This team is quite simple because it only specializes in 2 Esper Cycles, Hexed, which forces the enemy to take extra damage from anima and incantation units, and it's quite strong, so this will be primarily triggered with Juyuan since she's the only anima unit, and then swapping from her once cycle gauge is full to Baicang is usually the right move, so he can then unleash a ton of damage from Hex state inflicted on enemies. And then there's Scorch Esper Cycle, which applies a ticking DOT for 15 seconds, and its damage is pretty decent. However, what makes it really good is Baicang's enhancement, which forces the enemy to receive another instance of Scorch if they are already scorched. He likes to burn enemies, what can I say? Plus, Sakiri also improves Scorch further by making the dots deal bigger damage. Now, as you'll notice, Scorch can only be triggered with Chaos plus Incantation, so this is where Daffodill comes into play since she's the only Chaos unit on the team, while Sakiri and Baicang have Incantation attribute. Long story short, whenever Baicang, Sakiri, or Daffodill has their gauge filled, make sure to swap between them fast to keep inflicting more and more Scorch on enemies. Overall, this team excels in clearing AoE content because Sakiri with Juyuan offer insane grouping, plus Sakiri's buffs are super strong for Baicang, and Daffodill in the meantime can help lower the enemy's break bars faster. However, there's also an alternate playstyle to this team. By swapping out Juyuan and replacing her with Haniel, now Daffodill can become even more crazy with the break damage, and it mostly has to do with Discord. No, I'm not talking about the app. Literally, the devs decided to call this Advanced Esper Cycle Discord. Anyway, to trigger it, you must apply Scorch and Nova on the enemy. The order doesn't matter, but you need to trigger both of these Esper Cycles within a time limit to trigger Discord. By default, this reaction reduces enemies' break bar, but Daffodill on top of this modifies the reaction with her cycle enhancement and forces the enemy to lose even more break. Also, if you're one of the lucky few who pulled for several Daffodills, you can combine her 3rd and 5th awakenings for some really good performance. Oh, and while this team is slightly less efficient, but a lot more simple to play, you can replace Haniel with Adler, essentially leaving only one Esper Cycle possible to do on the team, which is spamming Scorch. On top of that, Adler's cycle enhancement allows Scorch now to randomly either reduce attack, reduce enemies' Esper resistance, or make them take more break damage. Quite the cool 4 eyes. Plus, he can also provide some shielding. The only drawback with him is that he doesn't benefit from attack buffing since he scales with defense. But I will say though, both Baicang and Daffodill do require a bit of getting used to their playstyle. I might make their guides in the future, but for now, I'd say these team variations are some of the best against AoE content like Beyond the Rails endgame mode. You've seen her in all of beginner guides. Chiz, the free S-class unit anyone can obtain by just playing City Tycoon. But is she good? Oh yeah, and I'm not just talking about her alternate skin. So the main team Chiz can excel in would be with Hathor, Juyuan, and either Zero or Haniel. For smoother rotations, I'd recommend Zero, honestly. Now, Chiz is a bit weird because you will need a PhD to read her entire kit, but in a nutshell, spam her basic attacks to gain the special grain resource, and then spend it with her skill by either quickly tapping it or holding it. You can also swap out during her skill if you want to micro-optimize your rotations. Anyway, this team revolves around 3 Esper Cycles. Remora, which can only be enabled by swapping to or from Hathor, and this reaction slows enemies, plus Hathor herself makes them even slower and increases crit rate by 10%. Then there's Blossom, which will be enabled by Juyuan by swapping to or from her, and it will summon these Vita buds that shoot enemies, and as I said, Juyuan powers them up significantly by basically doubling them up. And then finally, Charge reaction happens when enemy is both affected by Remora and Blossom. This helps active unit regain 10 energy for their ultimate whenever enemy affected by Remora is hit by Vita bud attack, which actually gets increased by 4 additional energy thanks to Chiz's cycle enhancement for Charge. So yeah, lots of energy going around here, and this team, while complex to navigate due to Chiz's playstyle, still feels great, even if you're just button mashing, to be honest. Especially once you unlock all of Chiz's awakenings when you max out City Tycoon rank. Otherwise, you can also run this team with Haniel, who introduces Stain and makes Hathor deal better damage, but honestly, Haniel is mostly there to just boost team's attack with her entire kit. Although I will say this variation is harder to play than with Zero, if you want to trigger that charge reaction consistently. In fact, you can just actually ditch Chiz for whatever reason you have, and just play this Hyper Hathor team by running her with Haniel, Zero, and Juan. The main idea here is to swap from Haniel when her gauge is full to Hathor. Hopefully before swapping you also use Haniel's skill and ultimate, so then with Stain, Esper Cycle, which makes the enemy take 20% extra damage from Psyche and Lakshana, results in some big numbers from Hathor. Meanwhile, Juan and Zero can help enable Blossom and Remora, while also helping Hathor restore energy whenever possible. So you can vroom vroom with that bike of hers. Did you get Nanally from the featured banner? Well, either way, let's talk about her best teams, which are quite simple to be honest. We've got all the typical suspects: Sakuri, Juyuan, and Zero. Really great grouping, buffs, and the Blossom and Hex cycle reactions help support Nanally's DPS significantly. Plus, Nanally's cycle enhancement improves Blossom and makes it shoot a lot more often, so pairing that with additional Vita buds Juyuan helps achieve, this leads to some serious blossoming, if you know what I mean. If you don't have Juyuan or Sakuri, you can then instead go for an entirely free-to-play team with Nanally by just running this team made up of Zero, Adler, and Haniel. And I know, I specifically said at the start of the video, you shouldn't run units who cannot help with triggering Esper Cycles, since we can see Haniel's Psyche attribute has no friendly neighbors to interact with. But this is the one and only exception, since Haniel can provide a ton of attack buffs for Nanally, and she's basically a poor man's choice if you don't have Sakuri. It's really that simple. Now, the last few teams, I just want to give a shout out because, in all honesty, they aren't as strong as the previous comps I've showcased, but they are still quite good nevertheless. Obviously, all of these findings are still quite early, and I'm only sharing my findings and other reports I've seen so far. But anyway, similar to how I described Chiz's team, you can play a similar version of that comp by replacing Chiz with Aurelia. It's a bit of a complex team comp in terms of setting up Esper Cycles, since you will need to manage Remora, Blossom, Charge, and Stain here. And you really need Hathor for this team to work because she helps connect everything in terms of Esper Cycles. If you remove her, you can see there will be a huge gap. But yeah, Aurelia will act as a hyper DPS here. Eventually, you'll be able to max out her awakenings after doing a bunch of gacha pulls, and her damage is actually quite good. Plus, she gets to smack enemies around while riding her jellyfish. However, as an interesting alternative comp, you could go for Fadia with Haniel, Aurelia, and Daffodill, fully focusing on just Nova Esper Cycle. I actually really like this gang of misfits because Nova is my favorite Esper Cycle in the game, since it causes a big boom damage after a delay. Really satisfying to spam it constantly. On top of that, Fadia's and Haniel's cycle enhancements drain HP and attack from enemies, and that drained HP actually improves team's attack as well. If that's not enough, Aurelia's cycle enhancement makes the Nova deal extra hits after it ends. So yeah, if you want to go into a supernova mode with this specific team, it's quite fun. And keep in mind, Fadia is extremely tanky, although the drawback here is that the majority of her kit scales with max HP, which means she won't benefit much from attack boosting. Still, moving over, for those of you who are working towards maxing out your bond level with Mint, well, this won't help you in any way besides showing your allegiance to her, but you can run this wacky hyper Mint team with yet again the classic trio of Sakuri, Zero, and Juon. But problem with Mint is that her damage multipliers are kinda meh. Sure, you can unlock a bunch of her awakenings quite early, and I would say at least for exploration it's pretty fun team to use, but overall it gets held back a little by her personal DPS. Lastly, and this one is just an acknowledgement, you can run the werewolf guy with Haniel, Zero, and Juon. In terms of Esper Cycles, it's identically the same as playing Aurelia, except here you want to beef up Skia with attack buffs coming from Haniel, and also get those enemies stained so they take more damage from Skia's Lakshana attribute. I've personally tried it for a little bit, seemed interesting enough, but anyone out there who wants to take on the challenge, hey, can't wait to see what you come up for him. Anyway, these would be the teams. Hopefully you guys found them easy to understand. At the the end of the day, it's all about those Esper Cycles and how often you can trigger them. You will need to build 2 team comps for the Beyond the Rails endgame mode, and with only 15 characters currently in the game, I would say there aren't that many different teams you can go for. Most of them are just variations of a variation, but overall, Baicang and Nanally teams are quite powerful, while Chiz's teams requires a bit more thinking when playing her, but it's also really good when things are done correctly. So yeah, thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button on this video. I will be making more guides for NTE, so I hope to see you soon. Bye bye! You know, I just realized I didn't mention Edgar at all. Uh-oh. Well, he heals basically.